Happy Wednesday, everyone. Today was a wild day in the market as Nvidia made brand new all-time highs yet again. The Bitcoin ETFs were approved this time, but for real, unlike yesterday. And then on top of that, even the market itself grinded higher. And while all this is exciting, we are set for a very important day in the market tomorrow as we have crucial inflation data about to release before the market opens. Heading into tomorrow, we have a lot to talk about news-wise. Like I said, the Bitcoin ETFs were actually approved today, which is a big deal, but we also have some pretty big setups to cover as well. So with that being said, Tom, let's not waste any time and let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, that overall market was pretty good today. The SPY started running up, and it actually got pretty close to recent highs of the year, or I should say highs of 2023 at this point. But it got there, started to reject down a little bit. But the big news really came right around market close, and it was with the Bitcoin ETF approval. And man, everybody is hyped up about this, Mike, and we have a bunch of information to go over, and even like all the tickers for all the ETFs. So, but Mike, right now, Bitcoin is reacting in a bit of a negative way. It's not really getting that upwards action that a lot of people were looking for with this approval. Now, I know yesterday's hack might have something to do with this, right? Maybe it decreased the overall people watching. Obviously, people are a little bit disgruntled from that yesterday, but I don't know. It's starting to look pretty rough here with Bitcoin, but it's definitely cool to see it getting approved. And it's about time, Mike. People have been waiting for this for too long.
No doubt. And yeah, yesterday's, we'll call hack, was some of the most suspicious things that I've seen in a while. And it turns out that the FBI is now investigating this SEC hack. But I've also heard that the SEC is going to be investigating themselves about this hack. So it's a whole mess on that side of things. But, you know, talking about some of the more optimistic sides of this approval is that we have a boatload of new spot Bitcoin ETFs set to join the market tomorrow. We can see the list of tickers on the screen here. We can see there's a bunch of different companies that will be managing these ETFs like iShares, Vanik, Fidelity, ARK, Bitwise. There's a bunch of them, and basically all of these tickers listed, you could trade either one of them. They all, for the most part, will follow and do the same thing and follow Bitcoin. So keep a close eye on these stocks going into tomorrow and the whole cryptocurrency space as a whole, because I saw just by looking at Bitcoin today and even some of the more what I'll call quote unquote traditional Bitcoin and cryptocurrency stocks like Mara and Coinbase, they haven't been running up too much, at least yet.
Yeah, they haven't. Like, Coinbase tried to recover a little bit today after that negative price action from the hack, and then now in after hours, it's right back down there. But I will say even Bitcoin is kind of getting down there, and as we talk, it seems like it just keeps going lower and lower. But Mike, going back to some of those tickers here, let me know in the comments which ones you guys are going to like the best, right? I'm curious to see which ones people gravitate to, Mike. Like, whenever there's ETFs, you know, imagine like there's a bunch of gold ETFs out there, right? But what do people go to? It's GLD. Same thing with SLV. There's a lot of silver ones out there, but the most popular is probably SLV. And it's going to be the same way with this. I actually like this one, Mike. Ticker symbol HODL, HODL from Vanek. I think that's actually a pretty funny name. Hopefully that one follows Bitcoin so that it can get some hype. It's one of the more interesting ones. I even like Valkyrie too. It's like Burr or something. Like it's running higher. There's some pretty funny ones here.
Yeah, no doubt. And reminder, they're basically all going to do the same thing. And, the ETF that has the most liquidity and volume will, generally speaking, be the better one for short-term trading. And again, they are also scheduled to come onto the market tomorrow. Of course, random things can happen, and it's possible that it can be delayed. But as of right now, expect these stocks to be live starting tomorrow at market open. But another thing worth noting, Tom, is like as we look at the cryptocurrency stocks as a whole, it looks like at least so far we're seeing like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event, as we've seen, stocks like, or just Bitcoin in general, and also stocks like Coinbase and Mara just explode over the past couple months. And, I'm not going to lie, like we are seeing some profit taking right now.
Yeah, we are. And I mean, the past few days for Coinbase and Riot and Mara have been brutal. And, to watch them going down in after hours kind of sucks here. And there's actually some good levels for Coinbase tomorrow. They made a low of day today, right around 144 to 143, very close to the low of day back on Wednesday morning of last week. So we might see a nice break of that support or something along those lines. And we might see these stocks fall a little bit. Sometimes this happens, guys. A lot of people, their minds might be blown that to see these stocks going down with the approval, but sometimes this happens whenever, there's just too much hype going into the event. And with how much Bitcoin and everything has been rising, like if we go out to a daily, I mean, I was just calculating it out, Mike, but from the low to where Bitcoin is now is pretty crazy. It's up around 200%. That's a pretty good move out of something that is, so big now as Bitcoin has become. So, it's definitely, we've seen a lot of good upwards price action lately, but just be a little bit wary of that profit being taken. But I'm going to keep them on the radar, obviously, Mike. Like if they do run, then I'll obviously start to look at them to the upside. But for now, it's a little bit negative so far.
No doubt. So shifting over into some other stocks that were pretty notable today, Nvidia made a brand new all-time high yet again. It's running up with a bunch of momentum, Tom, and there's a bunch of people that have their eyes on this one.
Yeah, it's a huge stock. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to trade right now that it got so high. I thought earlier in the week, maybe as it started breaking this $500 resistance again and running up with some good momentum, could have maybe had a good entry on Monday. But honestly, the past 2 days been kind of hard to trade with it just continuing to go higher. But I know a few people have been buying the dips on this one in the morning and letting it run up throughout the day. It's been going very, very well. And in after hours, it's running up again. There's a lot of people out there that speculate that Bitcoin could actually be affecting Nvidia, AMD, and some of these chip stocks because these stocks are, they are used to mine cryptocurrencies. Like they use Nvidia's graphics cards, they use AMD graphics cards. You guys could actually mine it at home with your own computers if you guys set it up right. But getting back into it, Mike, this could actually drive a lot of revenue in, right? If Bitcoin gets a lot more volatility and more people start mining, that's just more revenue coming in for AMD, Nvidia, and graphics card makers. So keep that in mind. And of course, we've seen a lot of good news with Nvidia releasing new cards and stuff. But yeah, it's been a one hell of a past 2 years for Nvidia, Mike. I can't believe it's broken $500 with this much momentum.
At this point, for me, it's definitely like a no trade. The stock is up like 15% just over like the past week or so, and that is a giant run for a $1.3 trillion company. And like even when you look at Nvidia, like in like the grand scheme of things, this stock over like the past year and a half went from about like $108 a share all the way up to close to $550 a share. So if you're just buying in now, it's just not worth it in my opinion. Of course, it's possible that it can keep going higher, but is it really worth the risk? For me, it's not. Maybe for some others it is, but for me, I'm a little bit skeptical of this one at this point. It's different if it's like running up like in an earlier, if it's different if it's in an earlier part of its run up, but at this point, it's like, it's just overbought.
Yeah, and I mean, you are talking about a longer term basis, right? Because like you could still maybe trade this as well, but I will say this: the options are getting kind of crazily priced at this point too. But on an intraday basis, there are still some opportunities out there. Like there was support today around like 540. Some people might try to play like little dip buys on stuff like that. But in the grand scheme of things, Mike, I'm 100% with you. I don't think it's really worth it at the moment. And there's a lot of stocks in this similar situation, like the next one we were going to talk about, which is one of your favorites, Meta here.
Exactly. So this stock has been running a lot as well, and to be straight up with you guys, it's also overbought, but, for the short term, it has a bunch of momentum, and basically they got a price target upgrade, and the stock is just soaring. It has a lot of momentum right now, and it's not as overbought as Nvidia, but again, it's like when you have that short-term hype, sometimes it can run longer than anyone expects. But either way, a lot of volume came into this one today, and there was a lot of action on the options chain with this one, as some of the options popped up by like 1,600% today.
Yeah, and it's a lot better. Like, I feel like the Meta options chain, like, whenever you look at Nvidia's options chain, I feel like a lot of people get freaked out by it, right? Like, we go out to the expirations for next week, and it's like, minimum $1,000 at the money, and that's just for one contract, and I know a lot of people, like, you go over to Meta's chain, you go to next week at the money, it's like $500, right? Like, the price is cut in half. The options chains are very different on these two stocks, and it's cool to see Meta's performing the way it is. But yeah, both stocks are running up, Mike, and there were quite a few tech stocks that actually continued to do pretty well today. Like even Amazon was up like 1 point something percent. Obviously nothing like Meta or Nvidia, but it was just such a strong day in the market. SPY was even up a good amount.
There we go. I came across a pretty interesting chart today that basically shows how the market does given a 20% run up in the previous year. And we could see that with data going all the way back to 1950, when you have a year with a 20% uptrend, the following year tends to be somewhat slow within like the first couple weeks to months. So we could see in the yellow box in the bottom left corner, the market just chops around more than anything else. And then as the market progresses throughout the year, that's when a lot of the uptrend comes into play. But I just thought this was interesting because like I have been seeing like a lot of things over like the past week or so that shows that, like on average, the market tends to do like decently in a year set up like ours, with it being an election year and, recent bullish momentum. But at the same time, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like the first couple months are, sometimes a little bit shaky.
Yeah, I can't believe that. On the average, it's like every single chart that we look at ends up showing that, around like the middle to end of January, beginning of February, we see that like little dip, and then the market starts trying to come back a little bit. And you know what? We have some pretty big news tomorrow, Mike, that might actually start causing a bit of a dip like this. A few people have been maybe saying that inflation might be going a little bit higher here in the short term. And, we have that big inflation data coming out tomorrow, 1 hour before the market opens, and they're expecting inflation to actually go up a little bit. So that might cause a little bit of that early year volatility, right? If we do see that inflation number come in a little bit higher, that could be a pretty big negative that might start making the S&P 500 reject right at the all-time high. It's fitting, Mike. The SPY is sitting here bouncing off all-time highs today right as we have this data coming out.
True that. And Tom, let's talk a little bit more about this economic data release we have scheduled for tomorrow. So basically, inflation data will be released 1 hour before the market opens. This is very important data as it has moved the market a lot in the past, and it's just important for the economy overall. Basically, the inflation rate year over year is expected to come in somewhere around like 3.1 to 3.2%. Theoretically, if it comes in like significantly higher than this, then it can be pretty bad for the markets. But we have also seen times in the past where the data comes in lower and the market also drops. So either way, with events like these, it's not necessarily about predicting like, oh, if this happens, then the market might move up or down. It's more so about that volatility will be increased tomorrow, and given that volatility, you can ride that wave of like momentum and profit that way. So going into tomorrow, if we see a big move in either direction, feel free to jump on that wave of the imbalance between buying and selling pressure, but it should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and with the way SPY moved up, it's like right around that recent high. If we scroll out on this 5-minute chart, that recent high is up right around 477.50. If we see a good break there, the all-time high is just under 480. So keep in mind, we might, if the data ends, or the market has a good reaction to the data, I should say, we should see that move up. But Mike, I know a lot of people are trying to play this event. Guys, it's kind of like an earnings play, right? Like, I'll be real, like, trying to guess like calls or puts on this one before the next day is like near impossible, right? Nobody really knows how it's going to come out. I'm kind of leaning towards the data showing inflation going up a little bit more, but we'll have to see. All week long, Mike, they were expecting 3.2 to 3.3, and then they lowered the numbers here on the forecast for us.
Gotta love it, right? Like last minute lowering the forecast. So now I'm very interested to see how this comes in tomorrow. But yeah, keep a close eye on the market tomorrow, and don't show up late. Like if you guys are gonna show up on time for one day this week, make it tomorrow, because sometimes I see people showing up like after the market's been open for 45 minutes. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you got to be there right at open, and tomorrow is very important for that. But Tom, we also have some exciting earnings for the rest of the week, and that is with bank stocks on Friday. We'll cover this more in tomorrow's video, but I just wanted to remind everyone for tomorrow because banks do report before open on Friday. So keep that in mind. But Tom, I think we're all clear for some setups for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching very closely is GLD. It basically follows gold prices, and every now and then on inflation report days, GLD and SLV do move in a pretty big way. If GLD starts to like really pop with some upwards buying pressure and, you know, some good bullish momentum, then I would consider playing this one to the upside, but it has to have that momentum. Like, if it's just like doing nothing or if it's falling, then it's not really a play for me, but if there's momentum, I see opportunity.
Yeah, that data could really give it a nice jump tomorrow. Hopefully we see some good volatility early on, and then we can like ride that wave to the upside. And with my first play, I'm going with AMD here. I noticed AMD was rejecting back down under 150, and they had some problems kind of getting back up there today. So I'm looking at AMD in a couple ways, right? It's right at 150. If it breaks the high from pre-market today up around like 151, I'll look for it to move up. Maybe it'll end up following Nvidia. Maybe the market will open tomorrow and start ripping. But honestly, I'm looking at it kind of down. If it ends up breaking down under 147.50, then I'm going to start eyeing up puts. I think AMD could be a good play for tomorrow. The options are generally pretty well priced. So let's go ahead and see some good action, Mike. I'm sure that there'll be quite a bit of volatility, especially early in the morning, like you were saying.
There we go. Alrighty, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is TLT, and this basically follows interest rates. So when this tanks down, it means interest rates are rising, and given the fact that we have inflation data coming out tomorrow, that can have a very big impact on rates as a whole. So I am watching TLT in the most like ideal way you can say is if inflation comes in hot, I would love to see TLT drop lower. And if that happens, I would love to play TLT to the downside. But realistically, this one can have opportunity in either direction. Just the main thing is momentum. Like, the thing you don't want to see is this doing nothing. But like, if you see like a big, powerful move in either direction, you know, there's momentum there for like day trades.
Yeah, exactly. And I think TLT will be great, right? Like, those yields always go crazy with the inflation data. And if they surprise, I mean, it could get pretty crazy on like the US 10Y and a ton of other yields. So let's see how it goes, Mike. TLT is always a fun one, I know. With my next setup, I'm actually going with a... it's not one specific ticker, right? It's kind of hard to explain here, but I'm going with all of the Bitcoin tickers as a whole for tomorrow. I'm going to watch Mara, Riot, Coinbase, GBTC, BRRRR, HODL. HODL will probably be my favorite tomorrow, but I'm curious which one will get the most volume, right? Even ARKs might be pretty interesting. So I know iShares is usually pretty good too. So we'll have to see, Mike, but I'm going to be watching all of the Bitcoin stocks and the ETFs, specifically the new ETFs, right? Hopefully they end up coming on the market. Hopefully there's no more delays or anything like that.
Tom, this has to go in the record books for one of the videos. It was your second play of the day, and it turned into a group of 14 stocks to watch for tomorrow. So
I know, right?
Go.
I don't know which one to pick because I'm like, well, hey, which one's going to have the most volume? Like, I don't want to pick one and then it ends up being, you know, has like no action. I want to pick whichever one's the best. But yeah, just eye them up in general. And I'll say that I think that GBTC would probably be a pretty safe one to watch. That thing's been going bonkers lately with Bitcoin.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they're all basically going to move in the same way anyways. So with that being said, we are all clear for the momentum plays for tomorrow. And with the first one, Tom, we have Microsoft to the upside.
Wow, to the upside. I'm surprised. We've been seeing a lot of downwards action with Microsoft lately, and today it had that really good breakout above like 375 and then really above 382. So if it can break that high of day right around 384, go ahead and look at calls for tomorrow. It's a nice even level up there. So let's see that breakout, Mike. It was a pretty big hit there today.
All right, and with the next one, we have Intel to the downside, which has kind of been down in the dumps, especially when you have a week where like Nvidia has been soaring.
I know, right? Even AMD was pretty rough today too. But if Intel ends up falling under 47.30, there was a hit there end of day, which was a pretty big area of support. So if it breaks 47.30, then go ahead and look at those puts to the downside.
Boom. And with the last one, we have Apple for both directions.
AAPL, very nice move up today by Apple. If they're actually able to break above 187, then go ahead and look at some calls up. It was a pretty good day today and a great close. Good aftermarket move as well. To the downside, if it ends up pulling back under 186, then go ahead and eye up puts. I had that area as a pretty big resistance today, and looks like it just blasted right above it.
All right, so we have the downside level for puts. We have the upside level for calls. This is for Apple. Don't forget about the downside level on Intel and the upside level on Microsoft. But it is now about that time for today's big money $550,000 trade of the day, and we are looking at a stock that most of you have probably never heard about, and that is INSM. And it's a good thing that you never heard about it, because with big money trades, the more unusual the trade is, a lot of times the better it can be. But anyways, long story short, INSM is a biopharmaceutical company that works a lot with like rare diseases and stuff like that. And these types of stocks move a ton based off news and events and treatment related news and a bunch of good stuff like that. And today, someone put 550 grand into the July 19th of 2024 call options at the 25 strike. Right now, the stock's right around just under $29. So the calls are in the money. They have time to them. The stock's been in a pretty good uptrend over the past couple months, and it looks pretty decent. So I think this trade's pretty interesting, and I will definitely have my eyes on this one over the coming months.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting here, Mike. Like that's the 25 strike in the money, and you know what? This stock has been on a pretty good uptrend lately. It's up just around like 100%, all the way up to that $32 high from the $16 low back in April of last year. So it's been moving up a lot. I'm kind of surprised that they're buying calls up here, but you know what? It's been moving well, and maybe they know something, right? We always talk about that, especially with these smaller companies and specifically the pharmaceutical companies and stuff. You never know. There might be a breakthrough. They might have a drug having a study, and somebody might be projecting the study passes with flying colors or something, right? There could be a lot of different things like that in play, but I'll definitely be watching INSM, Mike. It's an interesting one with a lot of movement, which makes it very enticing for calls. Like, even though it might like trade down or lower for a few days, it looks like when this one does get that upwards volatility, man, it is quite the runner.
Exactly. And I was just going to say that because I was looking back throughout its chart history, and it's like when it runs, like it tends to run for like a good amount of time, which is a good thing. And while I would wish that this stock was at like a lower price point, so the calls were cheaper. At the same time, like I said, it does run for a while, and like with biopharmaceutical stocks, like all it takes is like one piece of news to like really move the stock in either direction. So keep a close eye on this one over the next couple months.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, these biopharma stocks can be so enticing sometimes. And I actually went back while we were looking at the chart, Mike, and I found a lot of areas like where this stock has been starting to go up, and it would be up somewhere around like 100%, maybe pull back a little bit, but then like have a huge explosion just a little while later. So, there can always be times of volatility. And the thing that's kind of cool about this one is it's out to July, right? Like you got to give it some time, at least a few months here. It probably won't be moving like next week, obviously. And we say that a lot with the big money plays, but I know a lot of people expect it to move the very next day. But in this one, they might be waiting for a big event to happen.
Exactly. So good stuff there. Guys, reminder, we are having our live event tonight. We do this every Wednesday. Basically, join Tom and myself live at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. We answer questions. We go over good setups, and we have a great time. If you want to join in, you have to be a member of the Stocked Up Trading Floor. The link will be that first link in the description in the comments down below. We are running a New Year's sale that will end Friday at market close. So if you want in, now's the time. We don't really do sales too often. What's also included is access to all of our bots. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long. You get access to the big money trades on the same day they are made, but before the market closes. We have premium selling strategies. We have news bots. We have a bunch of other ways to follow big money trades, just like the INSM one today. And you get access to all the live events in the future, as well as all of the replays of the past. We have everything you could possibly need for short-term trading. It'll be that first link in the description in the comments down below. But Tom, we're set for a very exciting day in the market tomorrow. I'm very curious to see how this inflation report comes in, and I'll also have some close eyes on all these new Bitcoin ETFs.
Yeah, exactly. Those ETFs are going to be extremely interesting to see tomorrow. Like I said, my favorite might be HODL, but we'll see which ones end up becoming more popular over time. I think that the inflation data might come in a little bit hotter. I'm kind of hoping, Mike, that it hits that forecast number from before they changed it, like 3.3 or something like that. I feel like a nice double top up here with the market would be fun to trade. But hey, if I'm wrong and it starts breaking all-time highs, we're going to see a lot of fun opportunities, probably with the stocks that have been running a lot lately, like Meta, Nvidia, and a couple more. So let's go. It's exciting times. We're seeing some great movement, and I've also been seeing a lot of great trades out there in the Profits channel. If you guys are in the Discord and you had any good trades today, throw them in there, please. I know a lot of people love watching those, and it gives a lot of inspiration too sometimes.
There we go. Well, guys, we have a couple more days left for the trading week. Let's make them count. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow.